Okay, welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying. Well, no one's here yet. Great. Well, I hope someone watching the archive is enjoying the whimsical holiday video game music that I happen to have on at the moment. We'll see if we stick with that for the whole stream because it's a little too whimsical for my taste, I think, and also loud. Why is it so loud? And then I'll adjust my mic level here. Hopefully that's okay. It doesn't seem to be doing much. Maybe that's better. Anyway, welcome to the stream. So the idea for this one, if there is an idea, is just that I think it was last year. I think it was last December when I was like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of list videos about all different things and playing off the ubiquity. That's a word, right? The ubiquity of end of year lists, right? On YouTube especially. And I thought, oh, I'll just make so many. I'll make lists about some of the games I've played. I'll make lists about some of the music I listened to this year. I'll make lists about movies, etc. And I did. I don't remember if any of them went over especially well. Probably not. And so this year, honestly, I wasn't really sure if I was going to do any lists or whether I would want to or what it would be a list of. So instead, here we are together and we're going to have a chat. We're just going to chat about things that we have watched or played or listened to this year. I feel like that's what we end up doing on a lot of the streams anyway. So it's fine. It's fine. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. And this will serve as a replacement for any end of year lists that I might have actually worked on, but just decided to not do. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Purple says hello. Hello, Purple. As always, very nice to see you here. Thank you for joining. I hope you're having an enjoyable holiday season so far. I guess we're coming to the end of it, just about, but still. It's been a-okay over here, I guess, so far. Just going about the usual business. But yeah, it's been pretty relaxed. It hasn't been super busy lately, which is good and bad at the same time. But I take it for what it's worth. What else we got? Moon Tilt, and I just go with Moon. But welcome back. Great to see you here once again. And Moon says this year I started One Piece, and I watched all of F is for Family. I watched other stuff too, but those are the main two things. Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like we talked previously about F is for Family, and that's not. I mean, we can talk about it more, but I'm just trying to remember from previous streams because that's one that I maybe watched the first two seasons, or maybe just the very first season when it was brand new. And that was an interesting experience, and I just didn't really keep up with that. I don't even know if it's still being produced or not. Anyway, and then One Piece, yeah, and we might have talked about that before on the stream. I've also just mentioned, I think, in a couple videos at this point, that I also started watching One Piece probably after you, Moon. But I watched everything that was available on Netflix, which was up to like episode 320, 324, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't even want to say what story arcs it represents because anything is a spoiler, basically. But yeah, so I've watched over 300 episodes of One Piece now, roughly a third of the show overall. And I have some thoughts. I will probably end up doing some kind of video, I guess. I don't I don't know. I don't know who would be. I don't know if that would be of interest to people or not. I don't even know what that fan base is really like. I just haven't had interactions with them, so I don't know what the demand is like for wanting to hear people's like first experience with One Piece, or if it would be a way to potentially get other people to start watching it for the first time. But who knows? We will see about that. But yes, watched a whole lot of that over just like a month or so. I think that's about how long it took. Anyway, Purple says, I didn't watch much. Watched the new Avatar. It was good. Oh, okay. Feel free to share some more thoughts on that. I don't know. I don't think I'm planning on seeing Avatar 2 in the theater, at least not at the moment. We'll see how long it stays in theaters before it goes to streaming. But yeah, if you have thoughts to share, I don't know if people care about spoilers really, but if you have some general impressions or anything, feel free to send those along. Pop those in the chat. But yeah, I don't even know what critics have been saying or anything like that. So, and thank you for wishing happy holidays. I appreciate that. Moon says, F is for Family was my first, oh, sorry, there was another comment. F is for Family was my first period piece in general. Oh, really? Like, no, you haven't seen any live action period pieces before or anything? Also, I hope the One Piece live action will be at least meh. Live action adaptations of anime, I don't tend to have a lot of, excitement or like optimism for. I guess it might just be a personal thing, or maybe it's just because all of us have somewhat in our recent memories. We have the live action Cowboy Bebop debacle, and I think that's where a lot of people's minds go now when they think live action anime. Although there have been plenty of other examples. But yeah, specifically for that property with like the level of like crazy supernatural things going on and intense fight scenes and all that, I have no idea. I haven't looked into the details of that at all. So please, that's something else where if you have some more, if you have the goods on that, if you have some more details about the live action One Piece, let me know. But yeah, my initial reaction would just be like hesitance and I guess suspicion that it maybe won't be good, but who's to say? I'm sure it's a long ways out. Moon also says this year was Naruto and Persona's 25th anniversaries. It was the Sailor Moon 30th anniversary and Homestuck 13th anniversary. Okay, yeah, definitely. I mean, 25 and 30 are definitely two really, really big ones. And yeah, I actually don't know too much about well, I know a little bit about sort of the converging histories of Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, because of course Persona came out of the SMT series as sort of a spin-off and then became its own thing. But yeah, it's only within the last couple years that I've even been like aware of Persona, honestly. And Persona 5 is the only game that I've actually actively tried to play quite a bit. So I am definitely no expert on that series or SMT. I've played none of the SMT games. But yeah, and Naruto I haven't even touched. But that's another one that like One Piece, or what's some other ones? Maybe Hunter x Hunter as well, although I don't think it's as big or as lengthy. But yeah, it's just these really massive shows with years and years of history and lore and different projects and potentially movies and such. So it can feel intimidating to, try to dip into them at all. And so far, just haven't done it with Naruto. One Piece for sure, but we'll see if that momentum keeps up and if I can manage to make it through the rest of the show, especially when it comes to finding the rest of the episodes and where to stream stuff. But yeah, anyway. Purple says that, which I guess on Avatar, Purple says it was good. Not really much thoughts on it, or not many thoughts on it, but plan on watching Mob Psycho Season 3. That's cool. Where is that one? Which service provides that one? That's not one that I follow, so I have no idea. But that's cool. And yeah, that should probably be another part of the discussion too, is like, what is the what's upcoming, right? What are the big things that are gonna be released next year. And for that, I'm going to pull it up in a different window and see if we can get a nice condensed list, because that would be pretty cool. 23 releases, I guess. A guide to 24 animated features releasing in 2023. That sounds pretty good. Cool. Moon says the One Piece live action director and Nami's actress are both huge fans. I would hope so, I guess. Well, I mean, particularly for the director, you'd have to be, like, you would just have to be familiar with that source material, I think, to even want to take that on. And at the same time, I can, very much see them promoting that aspect, right? Like they're like, okay, it's time to market this thing, and they're talking to everybody on the cast and the team, the crew and everything behind the show, and they're like, okay, so at least some of you guys actually know the original show, right? They're like, oh yeah, we know. I mean, it is one of the most popular anime series of all time, right? Like, especially within Japan, it's massive. So it's good news. It's good news, especially for the directing seat, to have some familiarity with the series. But yeah, I don't know. Familiarity is one thing, and then beyond that, effects are going to be extremely important to that whole project. Again, like we were saying, the amount of supernatural stuff going on, elaborate fight sequences and things, and just crazy stuff happening in general. Even the most basic location in One Piece across many different story arcs could be a challenge to set up and to make it look appealing and authentic and somewhat loyal to the original source material too. So who knows? I guess I have my fingers crossed, although I feel like the show itself is going along just fine. And regardless of how this movie does, it'll be okay. It's gonna survive. So yeah. Purple says, oh, I think season 3, I think of Mob Psycho is already out, but I haven't gotten around to it because I'm trying to watch Initial D. Okay, cool. Yeah, I did try Initial D at some point. Obviously, it's another really, really well-known series. And pretty darn good. I had watched a little bit of it just to kind of, I don't know, see what it was all about, and get the vibe for it. And I do like the essence of the show, and all the character writing is just fine, and there are dramatic elements that they were setting up very well, but I really don't like how that show looks pretty much at all. I think it's a pretty ugly show. I don't think it looks good. And maybe part of that is just the time. I mean, it was the 90s. 90s anime had a very different look compared to a lot of the shows being released nowadays. But anyway, that's cool. And I mean, I definitely sympathize with you there, where there's just not enough time, and you have your watch list, and maybe you'll get to a lot of it, and maybe you won't. Depends on schedule and access to the shows and stuff. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I have lists of things that I watched here, which I guess I should probably run through some of those first before looking at 2023 stuff. So this is not everything that I watched in the year. These were just some things that came to mind. At least for movies, I have everything that I watched throughout the year on Letterboxd, which is just a site that lets you log the movies you've watched and leave little reviews and ratings if you want to. And if you're interested in checking that out, apparently I've already shown my username and stuff, so you should probably be able to find me that way. But yeah, so what I did earlier was I just went through some of the lists and tried to pull things that were a little bit more notable. And it's definitely a mix of stuff that was actually released this year, and then things that I just happened to see this year for the first time. So a big smattering of movies and shows. But yeah, in terms of movies, let's see which of these really, really stood out to me. So Flea is one that I talked about previously. I think I made a video about like the animated feature nominations for the Oscars last year. I think, but Flea was one that I didn't actually watch until after it had been nominated for the Oscar. I just hadn't heard of it prior to that. I really liked it. It's basically an animated documentary, different format, not something I had seen very often at all, and I thought it was incredibly well done. It's very depressing and sad, but that makes sense given the subject matter. Um, and I mean, there's some other. Yeah, Drive My Car was an Oscar movie too. Japanese entry for what, best international release? Is that what they call it? I don't like the Banjo Kazooie music. Hold on. It's fine. It sounds like circus music though. I'm not really going for a circus vibe at the moment. Okay, what else? Yeah, for Drive My Car is very good. Small, quiet art house movie. A big emphasis on like silence in the movie in particular. But yeah, anyway, that was great. Check that one out if you feel up for it. Sea Beast. We can talk about some of the animated movies. We should probably do that, huh? I made a movie about Sea Beast. I didn't like it very much. It seemed to get a decent amount of positive attention when it was first released. It was direct to streaming, right to Netflix. And there were some big names attached to it who had previously worked with either Disney or DreamWorks. I forget which, and I don't even remember the guy's name. Regardless, it just didn't really click with me, and it felt generic in a lot of ways, and there wasn't any particular element of the movie that really struck me and got me super interested, so I didn't have too many positive things to say about it. And it's another thing where even the people that seemed to really like it when it came out, I didn't see them retaining that. I haven't since seen like a million different video essays trying to break it down. It just doesn't feel like that kind of movie for one thing, but it also just feels like one of those things that a lot of people forgot about. Whether it gets an Oscar nomination, that'll be very interesting to see. Netflix wants a lot of their original programming to get Oscar nominations and to win Oscars ideally. But in that category, Del Toro's Pinocchio has a much, much better chance. So there's that. Sorry, Moon here says, I feel like I'm the only person my age who has not watched Wednesday. I know I'm not, but gifs of it are all over my school's Discord. Oh gosh, even the idea of a school Discord is pretty foreign to me, but it does make sense. Yeah, no, I mean, that's always fine, right? If there's a big cultural happening and it's just not really your thing. I've been there many a time, especially when I was, younger. I was completely outside of the original wave of Harry Potter hype from the books going into all the movies. I was just not involved in it at all. And I guess part of me kind of wanted to be, just because it's fun to be involved. A lot of people are excited about something and going to the premieres of the different movies. It's just plain exciting. That's great. But at the same time, it didn't seem like the kind of thing I would really be into. But anyway, yeah, I've been that way with plenty of stuff. And honestly, I think if it's a situation where you've given the thing like a fair shake, you've gone ahead and watched it and it just doesn't click with you, who cares? That's my general feeling on it, I guess. But anyway, but yeah, I think we were talking about Wednesday, the last stream, a couple weeks ago, I think, and a couple of us in the stream had watched just like a couple episodes of it, and it didn't really work very much for us at all. That said, I think those of us who we're talking about it are a little bit older, so we're not in that target age group or demographic, So that's probably part of it too. But I'm also seeing more reviews come out now that are like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's not very good. One of the best comparisons I saw drew, similarities to Riverdale, right? Another Netflix program, if I remember correctly. And yeah, like, I don't know. It's clearly working in terms of popularity. Riverdale was really popular too, I think, for most of the run. But yeah, it seemed okay to me. Definitely not the thing that I would probably cover on the channel. And again, being so far outside of the target demographic didn't feel like a good idea to cover it anyway. But yeah, anyway, Wednesday. I'm sure it's making them some amount of money in an abstract sense. Is it bringing in more subscribers? I don't know. But how long could something like that run? Like 3-4 years, maybe? Because you have to worry about your actors aging out, right? Unless everything about the show and like the circumstances also graduate, so to speak. I don't know. It's an interesting question, but that is that. Purple says, why do people like Wednesday so much? I understand Breaking Bad, but I don't understand Wednesday's sudden rise. Well, very different shows for one thing, right? And like, I think a lot of people would put Breaking Bad in the category of like prestige television. I think that's the term a lot of people use now. Where it's very serious, and it is for like almost exclusively an adult audience, and it's just supposed to be written really well and really dramatic and well acted. And honestly, I'm not the person to tell you like what specific aspects of the show have made it so popular, because I just don't know. I'm just not familiar with it at all, really. I have a feeling people like that lead girl. I think they appreciate her performance, I guess. That's cool. I can also see some natural inroads to like goth culture, or what I was getting from it from just a couple episodes I saw was just like amplifying the the outsider, right? The fish out of water element. And I think that has a pretty general appeal. And especially for younger people, I mean, it's not uncommon at all to feel like an outsider to any given group or activity or thing. So I can see some appeal there. Whether or not that is what people are super excited about, I have no idea. I have no idea what the hubbub is really about. So I can't do much other than speculate. But that's that. Moon says, I'm just not into teen dramas outside of anime dramas or Daybreak. Yeah, totally fair. And I don't know. I'm trying to think of somewhat equivalent properties from when I was in like middle school or high school. I guess Mean Girls came out. That was a pretty big movie. I think that came out when I was in like middle school. And it was something that got referenced all the time. People were very aware of it. People related to certain aspects of it a whole lot. They also just thought it was very funny. So maybe something like that is in the same orbit. Teen drama, teen dramedy, something like that. Anyway, but yeah, it is ultimately just a subgenre. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. That's totally cool. Okay, so I talked about Sea Beast a little bit. That's fine. The Bad Guys, of course. That was one that I was really, really looking forward to. I forget when we got that first trailer. Maybe it was the end of last year. But yeah, that was one of the things where I made a whole video just about how great the trailer looked and how I was excited for the full release. And it took me much longer than I expected to actually see the movie, because I didn't see it in theaters. I waited until it was out on streaming, and I don't know. I think it might have been a little bit more effective for me if I had seen it in theaters, just because it does have a fair amount of visual flair. It's also clearly trying to borrow certain imagery or vibes from more serious adult movies and like crime movies and heist stuff. So I do think there was a lot in the movie to like. I have watched it a couple more times since then. I think it's a great movie. I have a lot of fun with that one. At the same time, the visual elements that I really liked in the trailer weren't as pronounced in the final product as I expected them to be, which is also a-okay. I also think it was better written than I was expecting. Like, it's actually a pretty decent, what do we even call it? Character piece, potentially. They write about these topics fairly well. I don't even know who was working on that thing. I know it was based on some graphic novels for kids, um, but I did end up liking that one a lot. I don't even know if that's in the Oscar race. It probably should be. Which studio was that? Don't even remember. But yeah, that was definitely one of the better animated movies of the year. By a good stretch, I think. Purple says, what are your top things you've watched this year? Top 5. Well, I don't have it off the top of my head. That's tricky, but here's what we'll do. Is as we run through this list, where it's already kind of narrowed down a bit, and we'll say both movies and shows. Games doesn't make sense because you don't watch games, but what I'll do is as we go through them, I'll put a little star next to the stuff that I really enjoyed, and we'll kind of use that to narrow it down even further, which is important because the next thing is the Bob's Burgers movie, which I never talked about on the channel, I don't think. I talked about it elsewhere on the internet, but that's one that I was aware of for a long time. Heading up to release, it got delayed. I think it was originally set for a release in 2020, maybe, or summer 2021. Got delayed quite a bit. And I did see it in the theater, and I was just not really bowled over. I thought it was okay. I thought it incorporated some, I don't know, some key elements of the show that I really like, and I appreciated the effort. But beyond that, I was kind of confusing and convoluted. The story was strange. And lots of musical numbers that maybe, I don't know if all of those were completely necessary. So I'm not going to be giving the Bob's Burgers movie a star for the moment, but I didn't hate it or anything like that. Sonic 2 is a no. Sonic 2 gets no star. I'm sorry. I really didn't like Sonic 2 or Sonic 1, the movies. I really didn't like those at all. So that's that taken care of. Moon says, after 3 years of being into mainstream bands, this year I got into indie, emo, and pop punk. Okay, talking some music stuff. That's cool. That's fair. And yeah, in general, I think it's just a lot of fun to explore different genres, different types of projects, and just specifically things that you're not super familiar with, especially when you're still kind of forming your taste in any given medium, that can be just really exciting to try out a bunch of different stuff. And I definitely did a similar thing. Maybe around middle school or high school, and hopefully I've continued to do it. I specifically with music, I really like to try to find something new and different because I get tired of listening to a lot of the same stuff. Anyway, I'll rush through some of these. Special When Lit was a documentary about pinball and people who really like pinball. I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would as like a free documentary on YouTube. And I made a pretty big video about that documentary. So if you want to hear some more thoughts on that, there you go. Marmaduke. Forget when it was produced, but I did watch it this year, and it was awful. My goodness, what a terrible, terrible, bottom-of-the-barrel animated movie. No star. Bubble, anime movie from some people who worked on, what was it, Attack on Titan or something? Some big shows. I wasn't crazy about it. I also made a video about that after it got released on Netflix, so that's another one you can look into if you'd like some more details. This Pinocchio refers to the Disney one. I should clarify. That one doesn't get a star because I hated it a lot. And I think that's about all I need to say about that one. However, the Del Toro Pinocchio does get a star. Made a video. You can check that out. And I mean, what can we say? It's just very good. It's just a solid movie that is nice to look at and that is written quite well, I think. There's a lot to enjoy there, and especially comparing and contrasting to the Disney movie from just a couple months ago, it was night and day about what the priorities were and what they were able to execute. So absolutely, that one gets a star. I think that went over very well. Moon says, I still cannot get over the fact that Voice Critical got to voice a Pokemon NPC. Oh, do Pokemon NPCs have voices? Just a troll. Never mind, that video was a troll. That's fair. Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute. I don't think they've ever had a fully voiced Pokemon game. There have been Pokemon games or spin-offs that have some voice acting, but for whatever reason, they, I guess, just don't feel like doing full voice acting yet. That said, I wouldn't be too surprised if, they decided, okay, we're going to do some, fully voiced characters. I am certain that for the English version, at least, they would throw in a ton of internet people and like influencer types, because even with the music stuff, like getting Toby Fox to compose tracks that don't sound like they fit into Pokemon, I'm sure they would get some celebrity people involved just for the heck of it, and maybe as a way of promoting the game. So anyway, but what would Pokemon voice acting even sound like, do you think? You know what I mean? Like, it has to have a distinctive style. I don't know if you could really base it on the anime. It might have to have its own like flavor. That would be an interesting like challenge for actual voice actors. Hit the Windows button by accident. Anyway. That's that. Okay. Purple has some music comment too. I listened to more or less mainstream rap, tried Weezer, tried some R&B stuff, and soul. That's pretty good. Yeah, and depending on where you listen to stuff, and I can go over some music too if you guys feel like it. We can't listen to it though, of course, without getting the stream taken down. But yes, depending on where you're listening, it can actually be helpful to have whatever algorithm kind of usher you along to similar stuff. Especially if you're breaking into like a new genre or something like that. I think it'd be kind of fun to just like, in Spotify, it's the radio function where they'll just put on similar music. YouTube will have suggestions for similar stuff, but it's kind of nice. It's a good way to come across new things. Purple says, I want a Chris Pratt Pokemon. So are you specifically saying like Chris Pratt should voice like a Pokemon creature and not like an NPC? Because that's what I like better. I like that idea very much. He just, says the name of whatever the Pokemon is. I hope the Pokemon would not be called Chris Pratt, but anyway. Toby Fox went from making the Homestuck OST to making 2 games working on Pokemon. I know, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously after Undertale, all bets were off. He just gets to work on whatever, And that's another part too, I think, is with the Pokemon stuff, is that like Undertale also happens to be really, really popular in Japan. Obviously, it's popular here in the West, but like it definitely took off in Japan, and that doesn't happen a whole lot with Western indie games, or at least that's my impression. So I have a feeling there were just plenty of people in game dev over there who were fans of his work. So they're like, yeah, go for it, man. Just go for it. Okay, Brain Candy is an old Kids in the Hall movie. Pretty good, but not new. And yeah, White Noise, a new Noah Baumbach movie out in theaters now and on Netflix. I made a video about before I had watched it. I saw it yesterday in the theater, and I didn't like it very much. I probably won't make a video about it, but anyway, no star for that. See How They Run, a somewhat recent movie from some British director I wasn't familiar with. And it's sort of murder mystery, more or less set in the 60s in London, I think. Borrowing a lot from Wes Anderson in terms of visuals and camera moves, a little bit too much. That was that. It was fine. Possibly in Michigan, an old video-only horror short that went viral, I think, on TikTok and then spread to the other social media platforms. It's a musical horror short about cannibalism in malls. Not in malls, but also there are malls in it. Check it out. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube right now if you want to. I like it a lot, but I don't think Star, and also it's 30 years old or more, so I don't know if it really counts for this discussion. Drunken Master, old kung fu movie, free on YouTube. Not good, but funny. End of Evangelion. I made a pretty long video earlier this year talking about getting into Evangelion. And I did end up watching that movie, which is like a redo of the last couple episodes of the show. It's excellent. It's really good. And maybe I will do a star, even though it's very old, just because I like it that much. And also, I think I need to catch up. Purple says, yes, exactly. I think about Chris Pratt Pokemon. Imagine Pika Pika, but it's just like Ice Cube or Chris Pratt. I feel like someone's did that. Did someone do that in the old... Oh no, what was that old Dorkly? Remember the Dorkly channel? And they would do like a video game based humor. That sounds like a Dorkly sketch from like 13 years ago. Like that's definitely the kind of thing they would have done. I'm sure there's something like that out there. Moon says, can we talk how there were like 900 YouTube channels where there were just stick men talking about weed that came out of nowhere? That has to be the weirdest trend this year. Honestly, I mean, in terms of like meme-driven trends on social media or like specifically YouTube, I don't know. Weird, it almost doesn't seem like the right word because it's random at first. Like the original idea for any given trend might be genuinely random, and that's what really like gets people's attention. But then as other people mimic that trend and sort of evolve it in different ways over time, it's less weird because it's just people iterating on one idea. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting to see stuff like that rise up and then die off, usually within like a couple months or something. I mean, that even happens with individual, just image-based memes too, right? Like the lifespan of those tends to be pretty short. So yeah, it's definitely the kind of thing that like would be relevant to any given year in which it happens. But next year there's going to be a bunch more of very, completely different things, completely different memes, ideas, etc. But yes, I agree that it's weird. And an interesting addition to the YouTube landscape of 2022. And real quick to round out this here, I'll give Peanuts movie a star because I actually did really like the Peanuts movie quite a bit. It wasn't like the best thing ever. And is that 5 total? Look at that. That's 5 total movies that I gave stars that I remembered watching this year. Most of which are animated, yes. 4 of the 5 are animated. There you go. And yeah, those are pretty darn good. Not all released this year, of course, but still great. As for shows, I don't know. I feel like it's a much more even playing field because I tend to only watch shows that I think I'm really going to like, as opposed to movies where I'll watch pretty much anything and it's only an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'll be done with it and I can move on to the next thing. But with shows, it's a massive commitment, of course. We talked about One Piece. Over 300 episodes of One Piece happened. I watched first season of The White Lotus on HBO. Thought that was very good as well. I haven't watched season 2 at all. They did Neon Genesis Evangelion. Of course, they made a video. Very good. And yeah, lots of anime stuff here that I remembered. It's tough because a site like Letterboxd doesn't let you log the TV shows you've watched, just the movies. So it's much harder for me to try to remember the shows that I was watching. Joe Pera Talks With You, though, of course, my gosh, one of the best things I've seen in general. Really, really, really enjoyed it. Had a lovely time. I think this was also the year when I watched Nichijou for the first time, which is now an all-time favorite as well. So yeah, again, plenty of animated stuff, and some comedy, other things. But yeah, it's harder for me to remember which of the television shows I happened to watch this past year. But that's a decent spread. That's, it's some kind of variety, I guess. I'm sure there are many more things that I've just completely forgotten about, but that's not really a point in their favor, is it? If I just completely forgot about watching them. It maybe means that they weren't super memorable. Purple says, I would give a star to the Joe Pera Show and a star to YouTube in general if I had a list. That's cool. Yeah. Do you guys have lists? Feel free to sketch some stuff out over the rest of the stream and let me know. This isn't a timed thing. But yeah, if you have specifics, you throw those out there. But yeah, I do love Joe Parrott Talks to You. Talks with You. It's excellent, and I rewatch it frequently. It's really easy to have on, but it still has those stronger emotional moments, especially towards the end of the run, that just really hit. And they continue to have impact after multiple rewatches and things. So yeah, there we go. And YouTube in general, I think that's an interesting idea. I mean, you guys probably know, or maybe would just assume by now, that I do watch a ton of YouTube. It's kind of on basically at all times in the background where I live and when I'm working and all that kind of stuff. So I just see massive amounts of videos, and those stretch over a variety of channels and topics. But I do still have an appreciation for all that YouTube has to offer. I do get tired of specific portions of YouTube, and I get tired of parts of uploading stuff to YouTube and having a channel of some kind. But yep, that would be a whole other list, wouldn't it? Like specific channels or like specific videos. I don't know. Maybe that's one thing that I actually should do some kind of list for, because I feel like that would be less obvious, and I don't tend to talk about my YouTube viewing habits as much as like big released movies and shows and such. So that's that. Moon says, or asks, how did Family Guy become a meme? All I see on YouTube are 3-hour-long videos of episodes in a random order that zooms in every minute or so on clips under crappy mobile games. Oh boy. It's a big topic, though. What do we even call those? I guess clip channels, essentially, where their goal is to provide like a pirate option for watching a popular show for easy views, I guess. But at the same time, they go to great lengths to be able to post the stuff at all without getting some kind of copyright claim or copyright strike, which is tougher and tougher, I can tell you from personal experience. But yeah, it's miserable trying to watch shows that way. They do the same thing with like episodes of The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers. I think they still do it a lot, and it's different from the channels that upload like compilations of shows, right? Like, oh, here are funny Peter Griffin moments from Family Guy season 8, or like here Tina Belcher things that she did that we like and that are very funny. And a lot of those channels still do extremely well. Even recently I was looking at some of those videos that are just Bob's Burgers compilations, and they're getting like 3 million views, and they upload all the time. A lot of them have overlap. A lot of them don't equalize the audio or normalize the audio rather. So one clip is really loud, another clip is very short, and you can't hear what they're saying, and you have to adjust the volume all the time. The quality is not there, but people, I guess, just love these shows so much, or maybe it's a lot of like really young kids clicking on those videos and doing autoplay, but they're doing big numbers. And yeah, as long as that's happening, as long as there's some kind of like money in it, or even just views, some people don't care if they get the ad revenue, they're gonna keep happening. And I can personally attest to seeing those Family Guy clips that you're mentioning, Moon, or those types of videos for many, many years now. Like, it's been a very long time that those kinds of videos have been around. And I mean, I definitely can't watch any of them. I just can't do it. But yeah, it is a thing. It's like a whole subgenre. Purple says, I appreciate those Family Guy clips with the GTA drift or bad game under. I know I've been scrolling for too long. That's fair. There are those moments I think we've all had where you're like, I want to watch something, but there are no ideas coming to mind, or you've rewatched the stuff that you like so many times, and you're waiting for autoplay to deliver something good, and it tends to not do that. But yeah, there's a lot of that. I just don't. It kind of grosses me out at this point, some of those channels. But yeah, clearly they have plenty of motivation to keep it up. So what are you gonna do? Clippers are gonna clip. Is that problematic in any way? Okay, what else we got? What else is going on? Should we look at some music? I guess we could look at my the Wrapped. Everybody loves Spotify Wrapped. We can do that. Why not? I haven't talked about music for a long time on the channel. Let's see what we got. Please forgive me for any like embarrassing listening choices that I might have in here, but whatever. Let's take a look at what we have here. I'm trying to make my best possible use of the screen real estate that I have. You go there. I want the chat there. Thank you very much. Good. I can still see the chat. Cool. I had some of the Harry Potter score music. I like the music from the scene when Harry Potter kisses Cho Chang. Remember earlier when I was talking about not being into Harry Potter? I wasn't. And then I think it was right after I graduated college. I sat down with some friends and I was like, hey, would you mind like watching all of the Harry Potter movies with me like today? Because we all had lots of free time back then, and we did. And I like pretty much every movie up to Order of the Phoenix, and then I stopped watching them. But yeah, I don't know. I do still get a kick out of the stupid like teen drama and romance stuff in the movies, because it was always cheap and stupid. The stuff in the Yule Ball. Which one is that? It's my favorite one too. Anyway, there's a lot of stupid teen drama in those movies, and I enjoy that because I missed out on it. So it's sort of I don't know. I get it by proxy. I remember what my reaction would have been if I was a youngin' at the time. Sorry, I missed a. Purple says I was just about to ask you about it. The Harry Potter song or music stuff in general. So I really liked the Black Country New Road record, Ants From Up There, which released very early on in the year. This is not like an especially hip pick because everybody knew about this album. A lot of people really, really liked it. It reviewed very well. The band is still around, but the lead songwriter guy quit the band like either right before or right after they released this album. But yeah, if you want like earnest indie rock kind of stuff with lots of folk thrown in, it's just really good. And the songwriting is fantastic. The lyrics are excellent. And the second half of the album is just really impressive, and a lot of long form music and stuff. Can I get rid of this side panel? I don't think I can. I don't think it's revealing any personal information, so that's fine. So hey, if you're into that kind of vibe, if you haven't listened to it, it's very popular. It's good. It's good. You should take a look. The Ghost of Molly McGee. Oh yeah, that's another show that I watched this year for the first time. Made a video about that one too, I think, right? I think so. But that show also has some great music. I'm kind of sad that they haven't released more of the songs in an official capacity. This here, they only released like, 5 songs. And they're good ones, but it was very early on in the show. Oh, it was 2021 it released. Yeah, so... but yeah, I like the main title, and I used to loop it when I was working or something. I think I previously talked about the Going Under soundtrack and the game itself. Oh yeah, I made a big video about that game that I don't think did very well. But it's a fantastic soundtrack. I don't think I need to elaborate on it much more than that. The Beths are like a New Zealand indie rock outfit. They're pretty decent, and they had this live album live in Auckland that I listened to kind of on repeat, so a lot of those pop up here in the mix. The soundtrack to Guilty Gear Strive, the fighting game. So Dunkey convinced me in his video on the game that the soundtrack was good, and I listened to the soundtrack quite a bit, and yes, some of it is actually pretty good. It's kind of like boomer metal mixed in with anime music and stuff, but it's fun, it's easy listening, it's high energy most of the time. Pretty decent stuff. Moon's gonna, I think, is going to share the top 5 songs, but just getting that message prepared, I assume. Purple says, any song that makes you want to jump around in your room like Joe Perry from the one episode. Yeah, the Baba O'Reilly episode, which is, I relate to very much because when I was a kid, of course, coming across that song for the first time was really exciting. And I probably didn't spend, a week jumping up and down in the room, but I did try to listen to it over and over, which was harder at the time because like streaming music legally wasn't really a thing and downloading legally wasn't really a thing. So you just had to have a CD and a CD player, or it on cassette and a cassette player, or hear it on the radio. So that was its own little struggle at the time. I think I have a couple things from Clarence Clarity on here. He does like maximalist, arguably hyper pop electronic stuff. It's very good. This is not a new album at all, but it's a lot of fun. What else? Yeah, I have some of the, I mean, the Ghibli stuff on here probably shouldn't be surprising to anybody, right? Like, we all know that the Ghibli movies have fantastic music, especially the Joe Hisaishi stuff is wonderful. And these songs in particular, this one's just nice and sentimental, from Kiki's Delivery Service and Road to Somewhere, which I think is the first track, right, for Spirited Away. The whatever key it's in, the general tone, it's beautiful and mysterious, and it feels very expansive. But the internet's already talked about all that music. We don't need to say more. Pup is Moon. Maybe if you're getting into some of the pop punk stuff, maybe you'll like Pup. I think they're based in Toronto, but just really fun, high energy pop punk stuff. You can hear bits of like MCR and early emo in there, like Sunny Day Real Estate or like American Football. But yeah, easy stuff. I think they're touring now too, so that's the whole thing. Purple says, I think I did something like that from a song by Tyler or maybe Kanye. That's cool. That's fair. I used to listen to Tyler, the Creator stuff a lot. I don't follow his stuff as closely anymore. Clearly he's still doing very well, but I definitely had a strong phase with a lot of his early stuff. What else we got? More of the Beths. That's fine. Did you guys look into the soundtrack for Adventure Time, the Distant Lands, the Obsidian episode? That's the Marceline episode. Great stuff. Really good stuff. And for this release, look at all the like collabs and stuff they pulled out for this thing. We have these people who I've never heard of in my life. I don't think that's one with the voice actors. No, that's just like a track in the show. Olivia Olson's Marceline. Zuzu. Yeah, Zuzu does some voice acting in that episode and then did some songs, I guess. But look how many songs, because they include the score music too. And then they have all these collabs. We got a King Princess cover here. We have a remix of Eternity with You. It's kind of wild. Like I guess they have all these connections to music industry folks. And I mean, look at the numbers on the big popular songs here. Like this is no joke. Like they came out swinging for that, Marceline's last outing. They really did it. Moon says, here we go. We got the list. My top 5 were December or December. I guess December by Neck, Deep, Grave. I'm gonna try my best to get all the titles right. Deep, A Grave Mistake by Ice Nine Kills. Oh, I almost thought that was 9 Inch Nails, but it's different. Going Away for College by Blink-182. Very cool. Grow Up by Simple Plan. Oh, classic. Burned Alive by Census Fail. Can you tell I'm 16? Lean into it, dude. Don't worry about that. It's good. It's good, and this is solid stuff, Yeah. I regret mentioning earlier being worried about like embarrassing songs. There's no such thing. Don't worry about that. But that's pretty cool stuff. I assume this goes by most listened to least listened to. I think that's how they order it on Spotify. And this one, by the way, it's 2 minutes long. You loop it. So I just had it looped in the background. And I would play it for hours, almost ambient while I was working. So that kind of explains that one too. Purple says, I remember there was Things song. There was this song maybe I found by the Knife Pleats. Listen to it like at least 7 times a day. That's some of it just gets its hooks in you, especially if it's more like poppy stuff. That's where it happens with me, where I just want to, I really like the melody, like the flow of it, and I'll listen to it over and over again. When I first found Sayonara Wild Hearts is the name of the game, and this is like the title track. This album has remained somewhere in my top songs for each year since then because it's so good. It's so poppy and fun and upbeat most of the time. What else we got? Crying. If you guys haven't checked out Crying yet, yeah, very good. Wonderful instrumentation. When they want to be heavy, they're heavy, and when they want to be light and fun, they can do that too. Someone else I highly recommend for, like, what do we even call it? A mix of pop and folk and all sorts of things. Yuta Orisaka. Japanese guy, as you might have guessed. And this record, oh, it's so good. The variety of tunes on there. And several tracks in there that I just love to pieces. And so I continue to listen to a lot of his stuff. This isn't, it's not the most varied list. Yeah, I'll skip ahead. I mean, there is some decent stuff here. Doopies, a lot of fun. It's a one-off Japanese project from like the late 90s, with, I forget, maybe Sakamoto behind it. Anyway, really good space age pop, so it sounds like something from the 50s in the US, and it's not at all. Very good. And don't tell anyone, I'm only mentioning this because we just have a small handful of people here. I don't spread this around, but if you ever want like actually really interesting and incredibly well produced music, and you know me long enough, I will end up recommending this record from Mid-Air Thief, Korean artist. You have to. If you have some headphones, some nice headphones, you put this thing on and just kind of have your mind blown. It's just really fantastic. It's really, really good. Wish I could play it, but I would get in trouble. Yeah, not a ton of other interesting stuff here. A lot of repeats, I'll go through albums on repeat and stuff like that. So, and lately, Joe McPhee, if you're into jazz, if you're into free jazz, Joe McPhee's the guy for you. I like Despla's score for Del Toro's Pinocchio movie a lot. Author and Punisher is a dude. I think it's just one guy, and it's heavy, like electronic industrial music. So if you're a crazy person and you want something kind of intense, his stuff is pretty good. Hey, there we go. We're talking about Baba O'Reilly. Here's a track from The Who, very early on in their career. I was a big Who fan growing up. Dear Nora has some great stuff. Kind of smaller scale, indie, late 90s, early 2000s-ish, I think. If you're not familiar with Richard Dawson, a British musician, mostly guitar-based stuff, folk, I guess. And this is the latest release from, last month? First track is 41 minutes long, and it's great. It's a wonderful listen, and that's most of what I've listened to on that album. Yeah, I'll stop scrolling, but this is just more recent stuff that I picked up. I did like some of the stuff from the Cyberpunk Edgerunners show. Oh, that's definitely one that I should have put up in the in my list. That was definitely a more notable show that I watched this year. Made a video about that one too. Really liked it. And my gosh, just awfully intense. Fits into the anime category as well. Yeah, that was a great show. I'm sure that's going to be on a lot of people's like end of year lists, or at least I would expect that to be the case. Yeah. Okay. Well, gosh, man, we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone through a lot of the media that I consumed this year, or at least a lot of the highlights for sure. My goodness, plenty of consumption this year. I also watched basically all of the Star Trek movies at some point a month or two ago. Yeah, that was not a great choice. Kind of a lot of ups and downs in that franchise. Yeah. What do we got here? Moon says, I really want to start a band. I'm going to say band, but I can't play guitar, nor do a lot of people my age like the music I want to make. Mix of pop punk and pop metal with some new metal, emo, and soft rock. Oh, wow. Okay. It's a nice variety there. Well, I'd say that the biggest issue is the music part and playing the instruments. And I also relate. It's a thing where I've played plenty of instruments since I was a kid, you know, and some of them I actually got lessons for and was sort of trained in them, and other ones I just picked up and tried to play. And guitar in particular, well, I guess you could see one in the frame, but I'm still not very good, but I do like to mess around with it a lot, and I have made some stuff based around not being able to play instruments very well. But yeah, it's always worth taking the time, actually learn your scales and things, and that way you'll be able to realize, you know, any ideas you have much more easily. In terms of getting other people interested, there probably are people who would be interested in like a, you know, the same genre or like a mix of genres, but it just comes down to actually finding the people who would want to be involved. So like, yeah, I don't have much advice on that front since I'm not the most social person to begin with. But hey, if it's something you really want to get into, go for it. You know, even if it just comes down to recording some basic stuff on a computer that you have, or just like on your phone or something, because it is useful if you're trying to do some creative work to get ideas down and then come back to them probably much later and ask yourself, okay, do I still like that idea? Do I think it's kind of silly? Do I feel like I could do a better job with that? Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that. So just something to consider. And meanwhile, I'm looking for more music to put on. No, I don't want the Animal Crossing night music because I use that in videos a lot. This is okay for now. Purple found the song. What's it? What's it called? I can't put it on, but I'll mark it down somewhere. So feel free to send that. Moon says AVGN the series, not the actor, turned 19. Yeah, that dude's much older than 19, I think. But my gosh, yeah, he was definitely one of the earliest to the game in terms of like video game YouTube and what it's become. So even for people out there who aren't like a huge fan of his stuff in particular, I do think, you know, you have to give a lot of credit for establishing what have become the norms for, you know, those types of videos or videos covering that type of subject matter. So yeah, I watched his stuff for a little while. I think I had a stretch where I would maybe binge some of his old episodes just for kicks, and I wasn't aware of the game Seaman before his video. There's some funny stuff. I know he's been a little bit more of a controversial figure in recent years, although I don't know the details. But anyway, pretty crazy. 19 years to have, you know, a show, a channel, etc. Purple says I can play trumpet, not well, but good enough to learn some songs. That's cool. Borders by Knife Pleats. Oh, copy, paste for later. Yeah, get in trouble. AVGN started before YouTube was even a thing. There you go. I mean, that's how long. Although I forget what year YouTube actually started. And there used to be tons of restrictions on it too, like upload limits, you know, and other things. It was pretty weird at the beginning, for what I remember. Cool that you play trumpet though, Purple. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I did band stuff in school for a while. For quite a while, actually. Most of grade school, I guess, and most of high school. um, but yeah, that's neat. I like having the old instruments around too, even if I'm not like actively playing stuff. Oh yeah, remember Belle? I only watched that this year for the first time. I was this close to making a video about it. I really didn't like that movie. It reviewed very well. I did not like it really at all. I mean, I guess some of the visuals were neat in there, but ooh, yeah, no. The storyline and trying to integrate like the digital world and trying to talk about going viral and internet fame, it just, I don't know, it kind of seems late to the party in a way. Yeah, I did what else we got here? Purple says, I realized I didn't even have the song liked on Spotify, so it was never played for a year. That's kind of funny that you were listening to it so much it just didn't get saved. Yeah, I've done that a couple times too, though, just by accident, I guess. Or I get tired of the song after I've listened to it too much. That's happened a few times as well. I watched the Hellboy movies this year, as well as the more recent remake, which was not good. This was the first time I had seen the Book of Eli, so that was something. Princess Diaries 2, there's a classic. Okay. Moon says, as a fan of his work, I did not like the Weird Al movie. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. If you have thoughts to share, go for it. I don't think we're too worried about spoilers or anything. I don't think it's that kind of movie. I didn't really see the reaction to that one. I think it was a Roku original, right? And one of the issues there is just I don't think their marketing budgets are massive. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't have too many expectations for that one. They were trying to make it as goofy as possible. That seems fitting. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll have to check it out. Especially if it's free on Roku. I mean, I guess that means that we can all watch it, right? So you're a Weird Al fan. Yeah, I definitely was growing up. And I mean, I still am. Coffee's ruining my throat. Sorry. And I was going to ask if you've watched UHF, the Weird Al movie from 1980, whatever. And I mean, chances are you've heard of it, but I've been kind of surprised by the number of people who like Weird Al, but they weren't aware of UHF. It's really good. I think that one still holds up incredibly well. And there's so many bits in there that are just hilarious and that are really memorable. They have some great cameos from other actors and artists and stuff. It's great. But yeah, if you have more thoughts on the recent movie, Let Them Fly, go for it. This is your moment. What else we got? You guys seen Basket Case? Maybe save that one for later. I rewatch Ernest de Celestine all the time. Oh yeah, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Remember that one? Wow, I didn't remember that. I did make a video about it. I think I made a video like an hour after watching it. I was like, oh, let's get it out. Let's see if anybody wants to hear about this. That was okay. It was okay. It was genuinely funny in many parts. The story was no. It was a no story for me. Moon says Daniel Radcliffe did not play Weird Al good, but I don't like biographical stuff. Okay, so in like a general sense, it's not really up your alley, I guess. Okay. Totally fair. It did seem like a strange casting choice, but that also seemed like a marketing move. Like, here's a big name, and it's not someone you would expect at all to play this role. doesn't look like him or anything. Um, yeah, so that doesn't sound terribly surprising to me. But yeah. Okay, anything else here interesting to talk about? We're probably winding down. I have arguably made some lists in this stream, but not many. Yeah, it's just been kind of an overview, right? Things that happened to consume this year, but some good, lots of bad, lots of middling, mediocre material, which is fine. That's to be expected. Oh yeah, I watched the original House Party too. That was actually pretty decent. It had a lot of ideas. And am I allowed to say? Well, I can say this: they're planning to release a remake of House Party at some point. And that's all I'll say. I know a little something about the remake, but I'll stop there. What else? Some classics here, man. Parent Trap, Shrek 2. Oof. My goodness. Purple says, imagine a Jack Harlow Weird Al movie. I mean, anything. That's the funny part, right? Is that like it seems like a concept that would grant itself lend itself to so many completely random and crazy ideas, you know, casting choices in terms of story, in terms of how you're going to shoot it. So there's that, and it is a little disappointing to hear that maybe it wasn't executed all that well, and that it just didn't quite turn out the way they were expecting. But that's that, and this is it. Yeah, this is down to January and last December. Wow. Oof. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, Neverending Story 2. Oof. I don't recommend that one. Cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll wind down. One other thing that I want to look at very briefly is I'll pull up Steam and see if there are any games that jump out at me as being big hits this year for my playing habits, because that's not something I've touched on at all, and I feel like I should. Moon says, how do you feel about the DCU starting over? I mean, for one thing, I'm not super invested in any of the superhero stuff at this point. That's just a personal preference thing. And oh great, there's my full name there. I should probably obscure this in some form. Whatever, it's just a username, right? Sorry, I'll try to also respond to the comment at the same time while I work this out. Yeah, so there is that part of it where like a lot of people had that specific expectation for DCU because it doesn't seem like they've been managing it especially well. Sorry, I have to do this. That's an org. How about here? Nope. How about here? Sort of. Sort of. Pew, beep, pew. Okay. I just wanted to look at list of games here and see if there's anything that really stood out to me. Oh, it's not even showing up. Why is it empty there? Sorry for some. It doesn't want to show us Steam, so I will just look at Steam on the other monitor and see if there are things that I really liked. Okay, sorry. Pearl says good night. It's 10 p.m. No problem. Thank you for joining. I'll wrap up soon here anyway. And Moon, yeah. So it's also just a thing in comic book history, right? The number of times that they'll reboot a given universe or spin it off into other splinter stories and things like that. So on one hand, it was expected on that front. On the other hand, it was also expected from the side of like, we just don't feel like we've managed this franchise very well. So I'm not blown away by the news. At the same time, I guess I'm vaguely interested in what they decide to do with it next, given how many different things they've tried with it so far, and they haven't been especially successful. So yeah, I don't know. There are exceptions. There are a couple movies in there that I did really enjoy, but outside of that, I don't know. we'll see how it goes. But I'm not personally invested all that much. Purple says, if your social security was the amount of money you had, how much money would you have? Is that like a phishing trick to just tell your social security number? Oh my goodness. Moon also says, play Your Turn to Die. It's a free browser game. It's going to be on Steam also. Japanese episodic horror adventure indie game. Sounds interesting. I'll mark it down. Hopefully they have a Steam page up. But yeah, real quickly here before wrapping up, I'll just run through some of the games that I played this year for the first time or that were released this year. Vampire Survivors is one that a lot of people have talked about in gaming YouTube. You probably don't need to hear more about it. It's a very simple game. It's really satisfying to play. Simple gameplay loop that's really successful, and it's very cheap. I think it's $5 full price US, and excellent. Yeah, I play it all the time. I have like 35 hours into it over just like a couple months. Muse Dash is a rhythm game that I've been playing lately, and it's actually a lot of fun, even though it's also very, very simple. Trombone Champ, which you can see the icon for right here, was sort of a meme rhythm game that came out what, a couple months ago. Really took off online, but it's also just genuinely fun to play, and you now have a community of people uploading custom beat maps, essentially, in songs that you can play basically whatever you want on there. That's very cool. What else? Bear and Breakfast, I was really excited for up to release. It's basically a management game where you're a bear making hotels, or rather beds and breakfasts for guests. I didn't get hooked on it the way that I thought I would. It was okay. Maybe I will go back to it. I would like to. Otherwise, what else we got here? Disco Elysium, we've already talked about that. The demo for Gunbrella was better than most of the full games I played this year. I think that comes out early next year, so we'll see about that. That was a lot of fun. Monolith, if you're into like simple mouse-based shooter games, a lot of fun. And I've been playing a lot of pinball lately. I just happen to be a big pinball fan, and I've been getting into like the pinball simulation world recently. And it's kind of a mess. I don't think it would be worth talking about in detail in the form of a video. It's a mess, and trying to license real-world pinball tables and stuff, it's very strange how it's all spread out. Tinykin, my gosh, in terms of games that actually released this year, Tinykin's probably the top of the list for me. That's my personal game of the year. I love it to death. I think I tried to play it on stream more than once and it didn't work out, but it's incredibly fun. I have it on the Steam Deck, and it's just a great time whenever I pick it up. I think that's about everything. Sorry for rushing through, but I feel like I've dragged on a bit too much already, and I apologize to anybody who prefers more active visuals on the screen when I'm streaming. This is just what we were doing today, so forgive me if it's not your deal. But yeah, will this be the last stream of the year? I don't know. We'll see what my schedule is like heading up to New Year's Eve, but very well could be. And if that's the case, happy holidays to everybody. Have a lovely New Year time as well. And yeah, thanks for supporting the channel, of course, and looking at videos and listening to my voice, unless you play the videos on mute. And I think that's just about everything. I will quickly catch up. Not too many other comments, I guess, to share here in the chat, but there they are on the screen if you're interested. So yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in live, and of course thank you to everyone who tuned in to the archive version of the stream later on. Deeply appreciate that. That's the only reason why I bother to still do streams. Yeah, Moon and Purple in particular, thank you very much for chatting with me for the last hour or so. But yeah, I guess I'll close it out there. Big thanks to everybody once again, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.